FIFA rankings have existed for 34 years, across every World Cup since 1994. The number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the entire world have never once met in the final. Until now, everyone expects this to be the greatest final in tournament history. Two genuinely elite teams closer in quality than any final rankings have ever recorded. But history tells a very different story about what happens when the gap at the top gets this small. In this video, we are going to show you what actually happens, statistically, when the two best teams in the world meet with almost nothing separating them, and why the greatest final ever expectation might be exactly backwards. Let us start with exactly what makes this final unprecedented, because the fact itself deserves proper context. FIFA introduced its official world ranking system in 1992. Since then, every World Cup final has featured two teams, but never once have those two teams been the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the world simultaneously. Some finals featured a heavy favorite against a significant underdog. Others featured two teams reasonably close in ranking, perhaps 3rd against 7th or 5th against 2nd. But the exact top two, head-to-head for the championship, has never occurred across more than 3 decades of recorded rankings. This final breaks that pattern completely. The two teams walking onto the field this Sunday are, at this exact moment, ranked 1st and 2nd in the entire world. This connects directly to two previous investigations we've done on this channel. We showed that the 4 semi-finalists this tournament were, for the first time ever, exactly the top 4 ranked teams. We then showed how that concentration of quality at the very top existed alongside genuine chaos throughout the rest of the bracket, two contradictory realities occurring simultaneously within the same tournament. This final represents the natural conclusion of that story. The two teams left standing are not just elite, they are functionally inseparable by ranking. Before we challenge this assumption, let us understand why it feels so intuitive. When two evenly matched elite teams meet, conventional football wisdom suggests this should produce the highest quality, most entertaining football possible. Both teams have the tactical sophistication to execute their game plan at the highest level. Both have individual talent capable of producing moments of brilliance. Neither team should be forced into purely defensive, risk-averse football because neither has an obvious quality deficit to protect against. This logic isn't wrong on its face. Historically, finals between closely ranked teams have sometimes produced legendary matches remembered for decades. The assumption that closer ranking equals better match has genuine supporting examples throughout football history. But this assumption conflates two very different things: match quality and match entertainment value, specifically goals and open, attacking football. These are not the same measurement, and finals at the extreme top of the ranking scale reveal exactly why. Now let us look at what actually happens statistically when ranking gaps shrink to their smallest possible size in high-stakes knockout football, using the closest ranking gaps in World Cup final history as our reference point. Finals with the smallest ranking gaps between the two competing nations show a clear, consistent pattern, significantly lower goal totals than finals with larger ranking gaps. Matches between nearly identical quality opponents historically average closer to 1 goal per team across 90 minutes, compared to a notably higher average in finals featuring a clearer quality gap between the two sides. The explanation is tactical, not random. When one team has a clear quality advantage, the weaker team is often forced to take more attacking risks simply to stay competitive, opening space that produces more goal-scoring chances for both sides as the match becomes stretched. When two teams are essentially equal in quality, neither has a compelling reason to take on additional risk, because doing so against an equally capable opponent is far more likely to be punished than rewarded. This produces a specific kind of match, tactically dense, low on clear scoring opportunities, and often decided by a single moment rather than a flowing, high-scoring contest. Additionally, finals between the closest ranked opponents show a measurably higher rate of proceeding to extra time, and an even higher rate of ultimately being decided by penalties, compared to finals with larger quality gaps between finalists. This creates a genuine paradox worth sitting with. The very quality that makes this final historically unprecedented, two teams of nearly identical elite caliber, is the same quality that historically produces the tensest, most cautious, lowest-scoring version of a World Cup final. Think about what each team's coaching staff is actually planning heading into this match. Both coaching staffs know their opponent possesses individual talent capable of deciding the match in a single moment. Both know that conceding first against a team of this caliber creates an enormously difficult recovery scenario, because unlike matches against clearly weaker opponents, there is no built-in margin for error to fall back on. This mutual awareness produces mutual caution. Neither team wants to be the first to commit numbers forward and risk exposure to a counterattack from an opponent with this level of individual quality. The result, historically, in matches with this profile, is a tactical standoff, both teams playing patient, structured football, waiting for the opponent to make the first genuine mistake rather than actively forcing chaos themselves. This is precisely the pattern we identified in our earlier analysis of this tournament's semi-final matches: extended stretches of low-risk, low-event football between closely matched opponents, followed by decisive moments concentrated into small windows rather than spread evenly across the full 90 minutes. This does not mean the match will be entertaining in the traditional sense of end-to-end, high-scoring football. But it also does not mean it will lack drama, and this distinction matters enormously for how you should watch it. Matches between closely matched elite teams historically produce a specific kind of tension that differs fundamentally from high-scoring contests. Every moment carries disproportionate weight, because both teams and both sets of players understand that scoring opportunities will be rare, and each one might represent the only meaningful chance of the entire match. This creates a psychological intensity that pure statistics on goals and shots completely fail to capture. The quality of the football itself, in terms of technical execution, tactical discipline, and individual skill under pressure, is often significantly higher in these matches than in higher-scoring contests featuring larger quality gaps. What changes is not the caliber of football being played. What changes is the frequency of clear scoring opportunities and the corresponding likelihood of a low-scoring, tension-filled match that may extend beyond 90 minutes. There is also a specific viewing experience this creates that statistics alone cannot fully convey. In matches with larger quality gaps, viewers can often sense the outcome building gradually as the stronger team's dominance becomes increasingly apparent well before the final whistle. In matches this evenly matched, that sense of inevitability simply does not exist. Every save, every blocked shot, every last-ditch tackle retains genuine uncertainty about the eventual outcome until the match is literally over, which is precisely why matches with this profile, despite lower goal totals, are so frequently remembered as some of the most nerve-wracking viewing experiences in tournament history, even when they are not remembered as the highest-scoring or most technically spectacular. So heading into Sunday, understanding this pattern changes what you should be watching for and when. Do not measure this match by shot counts or expected goals accumulated over 90 minutes the way you might for a group stage blowout. Instead, watch for the small tactical adjustments each coaching staff makes as the match progresses, the subtle shifts in pressing intensity, and the specific moments when either team decides the risk of committing additional players forward is finally worth taking. Pay particular attention to set-piece situations and individual moments of skill in tight spaces, because historically, finals with this exact profile are disproportionately decided by exactly these kinds of moments rather than sustained open play buildup. A single set-piece goal, a single moment of individual brilliance breaking a defensive structure, or a penalty decision in a critical moment carries more statistical weight in deciding matches like this than in almost any other type of World Cup final. And if the match does remain level deep into the second half, understand that history suggests this specific matchup, at this specific level of ranking parity, has a meaningfully elevated probability of reaching extra time and penalties compared to a typical final. This connects everything we have investigated across this entire tournament back to a single, unified story. We showed the expanded format created chaos throughout the middle tiers of the bracket while leaving the very top almost entirely undisturbed. We showed the semi-finalists were, for the first time ever, exactly the top 4 ranked teams in the world. Now we arrive at a final that represents the purest possible expression of that concentration, the top 2 teams, separated by almost nothing in quality, meeting for the championship itself. Every step of this investigation has pointed toward the same conclusion. As tournament pressure increases and the stakes reach their absolute maximum, football at the elite level does not become more chaotic. It becomes more concentrated, more cautious, and more likely to be decided by the smallest possible margins rather than the biggest ones. So here is what history suggests as we head into Sunday. Not necessarily a classic, free-flowing final full of goals. More likely, a tense, tactically disciplined contest between two teams who respect each other's quality too much to take unnecessary risks, decided by a moment of individual brilliance, a set piece, or potentially penalties. Whether this final breaks that historical pattern, the way this entire tournament has broken so many patterns before it, is something only Sunday itself can answer. Soccer fashion, what the numbers saw first.